Been learning Sefer Shmuel since right before Rosh Hashanah last year. So that was 5782. And we'll be Messiahing today, Bezrat Hashem. The we are picking up really the war between the Plishtim and Am Yisrael has been boiling over and been brewing for a while. And we've had a lot of background to the encampment of the Plishtim. The Plishtim are the ones who are the aggressors over here. They're the ones that are initiating this milchama against the Jewish people. And we've seen two different dramas play themselves out. One is the drama of Shaul HaMelech, where we see that Hashem is not answering any of his inquiries, and he is almost going into this war blind, and he needed to violate halacha in order to speak to the dead, Mamish, Moshe Shmuel Hanavi, to see what is happening and what's going to happen in this war, and if he should go out to war. On the other hand, David is on the other side, behind the lines, and it's not clear whether David was going to fight with the Plishtim or not. Thankfully, he is not. He was sent back to Tsiklag, and we learned about what happened to David, the women and children of David's camp. They were taken hostage. They were kidnapped, and ultimately David and his men saved all of them. Now we are, as those are the previous prakim, a lot of different drama, a lot of emotions going on in these stories. And now we have the war itself. Uplishtim nilchamim b'Yisrael. Vayanusu anshe Yisrael mipnei haplishtim. Vayiplu chalalim b'Har Gilboa. This is very fast. The war is moving very, very quickly. The Plishtim are winning. Plishtim are fighting, and the Jewish people are running away from the war. The war takes place on Har Gilboa. I wonder if we can get a picture of Har Gilboa. On Har Gilboa, let's see. Let's see if we can see where Har Gilboa is. So this is Gilboa National Park that we have over here. Gilboa's reserve. Beit Sha'an is right there. This is in the north. This is in the north of Israel. You see that it's where it is, Har Gilboa. I'm just opening up its Wikipedia page. The mountains of Gilboa is in the Israel Valley. It's in the north of Israel. You see how Wikipedia tells us about Har Gilboa. It's a place where Shaul, led a charge against the Plishtim. And we will see what happens over there. And it's important to note, it is right next to a city called Beit Sha'an, which is going to come into play momentarily, why that is, or next paragraph, why that's important. Vayidbeku Plishtim et Shaul, Vesbana, Vayaku Plishtim es Yehonatan, Ves Avinadav, Ves Malkishua b'nei Shaul. The Plishtim are Vayidbeku. Devek means to glue, to be attached to. They concentrated, according to many Mefarshim. Here it says pursued, but it's more than just pursued. The focus of the Plishtim was on the royal family and was to really kill the royal family. That would be a huge win for them. The Radak says it means to pursue. Others say it means they were focusing on these individuals in the war. And who dies right away? Yehonatan. Yehonatan is the son that we know really well. That is David's ally, David's very good friend. He dies in this battle. Avinadav and Malkishua, also two additional sons of Shaul, die here. Vatichbad hamelchama el Shaul, vayimatzeuhu hamorim anashim bakeshas, vayachil ma'od mehamorim. Now this pasuk is up for major debate with significant ramifications in terms of the meaning of this pasuk. Okay? And we'll see Sefaria here takes one side. V'tichbad hamelchama el Shaul. The war becomes, rages on and becomes more significant. Vayimtsa'u hamorim anashim bakeshet. And the morim, who are the archers, find Shaul with their bows. Vayachel ma'od mehamorim. And Shaul, vayachel ma'od. So there are two interpretations of what happened here. One interpretation is that all of the archers are like those are the ancient day snipers, all have their bows pointed towards Shaul. Vayachel ma'od mehamorim. Vayachel can come from the word. Vayachel means to be afraid. Shaul was very, very afraid of the morim. This is what the Radak says. Chel upachad kilo hikuhu adayin avapachad mehem. He kept them missing. They kept them missing him, near misses, and he's fearing for his life. The other interpretation, and this comes from I think the Metzudas David and others, they say no. They found him, meaning they shot him. They hit him. Vayachel me'od comes from the word choleh. He got hit. And now Shaul is losing a lot of blood. He is very sick. He's injured from the morim. Now this is going to paint a different picture. Is Shaul now hit? And he's maybe dying in battle. He's seriously wounded in battle. Or he's, there's a lot of near misses. He's going back and forth, but he doesn't know if he's ever going to get out of this. Vayomer Shaul lenosei kelav. Shaul turns to his arms bearer, and listen to the story. And you tell me what is the ramifications of what Shaul is going to say next. Shlof charbecha udkareni ba. Take out your sword and kill me. He turns to his arms bearer, a young Jewish man, and he says to him, take out your sword and kill me. Pen yavo ha'arelim ha'ela udkaruni vishalubi. Because if they kill me, it's going to be worse. If they kill me, they're going to mock me. And they're going to be the ones that claim, rightfully so, that they're the ones that killed a Melech b'Yisrael. And I don't want that to happen. That would be a chilul Hashem. That would be inappropriate. That would be wrong. V'lo avano se kelav. And he says no. He arei ma'od. He's very afraid. Very afraid. I'm not killing the king of Israel. So what does Shaul do? He
Rabbi.
takes him out. 1 second, Mendy. Vayipol aleha, and he falls on the sword. And Shaul falls on the sword and takes his own life. Go ahead, Mendy.
You used the word they before. Is that the Pelishtim, or is that the B'nai Yisrael? I mean, who is the they? You were saying that he didn't want to be known as being killed by them. But who is them?
By the Plishtim.
By the Pelishtim, okay.
He doesn't want to be killed by the enemy. That would be a huge win. We killed. There's a difference, I think. Who killed and assassinated the prime minister? Who assassinated the leader of state, the head of state? Was it he died of natural causes? He died of an injury. He died because, I don't know, one rogue individual within the Jewish people took his life, or we, the enemy, killed him. Shaul feels because of his position, he felt that this was permitted to allow.
But you see, Rabbi, I would look at it differently. I would look at it whether the Pelishtim killed him versus one of his own archers went ahead and mortally, did something to him, and then it would be known that someone from Bnei Yisrael did it. I think that's a bigger bush as being king than if you end up dying in battle. You got become a martyr. Versus that if one of your own men take an arrow and try to shoot you and mortally wound you.
It's like a very noble thing. It's very noble if one of his, if he dies in battle. So he dies in battle. Kings, especially back then, were warriors. So this is part of being a warrior, is that you're going to die in battle. That's your point, Mandy?
Yeah. Versus if it ever came out that one of his, I never heard this before, that one of his own men tried to basically wound him and he bled out.
No. Didn't Shaul asked him to. He didn't do this on his own. Shaul asked him to. He said, I want you to kill me. And
because he doesn't want it to go down that the Pelishtim killed him. But meanwhile, who really, who killed him? He was mortally wounded.
He killed himself.
He did it to himself.
Ultimately, he took his own life.
It takes away from the Pelishtim's victory that they didn't kill him.
Shalom Aleichem, Yassi. Okay. It's great to hear your voice.
Thank you.
So Yassi's saying that what Shaul did is taking away from the victory. Right? Mendy's arguing it's a Chol Hashem either way, or whatever it is. It's he dies in battle. It's not a big deal. But Shaul is assuming that him taking his own life is a less of a Chol Hashem. It's taking away not just the satisfaction of the Plishtim murdering him, killing him, but they lose a little bit of the win.
But that wasn't his point. He would rather be, quote, respectfully killed than disrespectfully killed. And he knew that the Plishtim were going to have a heyday with his death, if they were the ones in charge of his death.
Right. This is very similar to Shimshon. V'hisalu bi is what Shaul says. Was that likely if Shaul did not take his life? It wasn't that they were going to kill him right away. What were they going to do? They were going to chain him up and parade him around town. Think about Shimshon Hagibor. Shimshon, they cut out his eyes and they mocked him and they put him in chains in front of a whole feast. That would be a massive, massive Chilul Hashem to do that to Shaul Melech Yisrael, the first king of the Jewish people. Shaul said, they're going to do this to me. It's better for me to take my own life. The Radak writes that this is not something that we should learn from in the future, that this itself is an exception to every other consideration of suicide. That this is unique. Every other case of suicide is passed in the Torah. It explicitly says one is not allowed to take their own life. Here, Shaul Melech Yisrael is allowed to, for these considerations, it is different. It is different, either because the death itself or the very fear that they are, in a certain way, going to take advantage. They don't value life at all. And they're going to take him and parade him around in a very, very inappropriate way. Vayarno se kelav. Pasake. Ki me Shaul vayilpo gamhu al charbo vayamasimo. The arms bearer sees that that Shaul died, and he took his life too. Vayamad Shaul shloshas banav v'nosei kelav gam kol anashav bayamahu yachdav. Now the Navi repeats itself and summarizes it, that this was a major loss for the Jewish people. It's a significant loss. Shaul his arms bearer, and 3 of his sons all die in this war. This is exactly what Shmuel, right, with the Eshes Balas Ov, right, what Shmuel said was going to happen just 2 prakim earlier. The Jewish people see this, right? Either see this, they sense this, they hear this. Vayiru anshe Yisrael, asher be'ever ha'emak, asher be'ever ha'yarden, ki nasu anshe Yisrael, ki v'chei mesu sha'ul vanav. Vayazvu es ha'arim vayanusu, vayavo plishtim vayeshu vahem. So when the men of Israel on the other side of the Jordan, when they heard that this happened, what did they do? Everybody ran away. This was a major victory for them. And in this, the Jewish people decided, we need to run away. We cannot fight right now. Right now, the Jewish people are without a leader. Ein manhig b'Yisrael. Vahimi macharas. What happens the next day? What happens the next day? Just to really appreciate this, we had at Shalosh Shudas this past Shabbos, Inon Avital's brother spoke. Inon Avital's brother works in the Rabbanut part of the army. And he explained that in a very difficult way what his job was for the past 4 months. And that is really to identify bodies and probably to speak to families who lost individuals. And what was amazing was, and it was almost like overlooked in the depth of his talk at Shalosh Shudas, was that the Israeli army kept all the terrorists in freezers. He kept their bodies intact, eventually to return them back to their families with no price tag on that. Vehimi Macharas, the next day after this war, what do the Plishtim do? What do our enemies do with the bodies of our people? Vayavo Plishtim lefashid es hachalalim. What do? They strip the chalim. No, they're not checking for bombs. Vayimtzu es Shaul v'shlosh banav noflim b'har Gilboa. They're coming to, right, totally destroy the bodies. They take and they find that the king was killed. Vayichrasu es rosho. They cut off his head. They remove his head. Vayafshitu es kelav. They take off his armor. Vayishalchu be'eretz plishtim saviv levatzer beitz atzabeyem es ha'am. And then they spread the news throughout all of their temples and amongst all of their people to show what a big simcha this is, how they won this war. Vayasimu es kelav beis ashtaros. They took his kalim and they hung it in one of their houses of Avodah Zarah. Vezgaviaso, they took his body, Shaul's body, his headless body, tak'u b'chomas Beis Sha'an. And they took it and they hung it on a wall in Beis Sha'an. Beis Sha'an today is part of Israel, a very big city. Right now, we hope we're going to be going there to visit. Actually, we're going to help the farm in Beit Sha'an, Bezrat Hashem, next week on our mission. And they think they know today where this was in Beit Sha'an also, and in more of a fun way, they have a big zoo in Beit Sha'an. I've never been there, but it's called a gangaroo. It's a zoo for kangaroos. It's a kangaroo zoo in Eretz Yisrael. And they took Shaul's body and they hung it up in a very public area in Beit Sha'an. Exactly what Shaul was nervous for. And this is what they do to someone that was killed in battle. You can only imagine how much they would deface and defame his body if Shaul was still alive. Vayishmu elav yoshvei yavesh Gilad. the people of Yavesh Gilad hear about this, and they're Jewish people, and they go and rescue his body. We'll learn the psukkah in a moment. But why is this important? I mean, it's important, obviously, but something happens here which is of a lot major significance. This goes full circle to the beginning of our Sefer. The very first test that Shaul had was with Anshe Yavish Gilad. We discussed how Shaul was probably had very little experience. He was a new king, he was a young guy, he was a little bit meek. And one of the first ways that the enemies tested them was that Nachash, Melech Ammoni, king of Ammon, threatened the city of Yavish Gilad that he was going to, right, make them his slaves and mutilate their thumbs. So Shaul went ahead as a new king and saved them, right, and took responsibility for them. You see now, they never forgot that. And they always had a karas tov to Shaul that now his body is being mutilated. It's not going to happen on our watch. And they went ahead and they saved Shaul's body. Vayakumo kol ish chayil vayelchu kol alayla v'yichu es gevia Shaul es gevias banav mechomas beit sha'an v'yavo yavesha v'yisrafu oso sham. Excuse me. They went ahead, they rescued his body, and they saved his body, and they burnt it there. What does that mean? They burnt it there. They burned his body. So this is also an important machlokas. Rashi writes, they burnt his possessions. They burnt the clothing of the king because we don't keep possessions of the king. That's a halacha. We don't keep possessions of the personal belongings of the king. They got rid of them. But the bodies themselves, they went ahead and they buried, obviously. The Malbim writes that no, the simple interpretation of the halacha here is that they burnt the bodies. Why would they burn the bodies? So the Malbim says the bodies became so decomposed and they became infested from exposure that they needed to burn the bodies to avoid infestation of the bodies. This was kavod hames in this situation, which allowed them to burn the bodies. And they buried them in the city of Yavesh Gilad. They took his body, they buried the bones in Anshe Yavish Gilad. Chazal say, Farshim say here, is that Shaul didn't only experience a terrible death, but even after death, the way that his body was taken advantage of was also terrible. And this is because of the two major sins that marred his life. One is the one with Amalek, and we didn't follow through with exterminating and destroying all of Amalek. And the second was that he was responsible for killing all the Kohanim in Nov. And for a full kapara to happen, usually that happens through death on its own for most people. The second level of kapara, the Aparbinal says, needed to happen here in order for Shaul to achieve full kapara. This way he can go to Olam Haba the right way. This is, again, technically, the Sefer Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Beis are really one Sefer. They were split up historically, probably by the Christians when they, I guess, codified, put together the Bible. This is the way we learned it too. Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Beis. It's an important moment to stop to appreciate that we came to this point. Maybe next week I'm going to be in Eretz Yisrael, Bezrat Hashem. I'll take pictures of Beit Sha'an and send them. I don't think there'll be any that he's there, but it's a very cool thing to see. And Sefer Shmuel Beis really discusses the transition of Shaul to post Shaul, eventually to David, but it's not an easy transition, as we've alluded to previously. David eventually does become king, and then we discuss David and his life, which is really the almost about 25 chapters in the Sefer, which is very, very exciting. David's been very much, I would say, the main star of the show predominantly. Then how does Am Yisrael transition to that? How does that happen? Transitions themselves are very, very difficult. And we will discuss that all, please God. Beginning,
Rabbi,
everybody a mazel tov on learning all of Shmuel Aleph together.
Rabbi,
Finish many more Svarim together. Yeah.
yeah, so question. So we went through all Shoftim. We have all these bad guys always around us.